What happens when the expectations of a global empire clash with a mother's instinct to protect her son? Behind the gilded walls of Mar-a-Lago, whispers of tension had begun to spread. The whispers weren't about politics or business deals this time. They weren't about Donald Trump's latest public statement or Melania's often praised fashion choices. Instead, the whispers revolved around something far more personal: Barron Trump. Barron, the youngest and most enigmatic member of the Trump family, had always been kept in the shadows of the media frenzy surrounding his parents. Unlike his older siblings who had embraced the spotlight and carried the Trump name into the public and business arenas, Barron's life had largely been shaped by his mother's protective instincts. Melania Trump had made it her mission to shield him from the chaos that came with being a Trump, often prioritizing his well-being over political obligations. For Donald, Barron represented something else entirely. He was the youngest link in the Trump dynasty, a blank canvas upon which Donald envisioned painting the next chapter of the family legacy. Donald saw Barron's potential, his height, his demeanor, his quiet confidence, and believed he could mold him into a leader who would one day carry the Trump name into new heights of success and influence. But Melania had a different vision for her son. She wanted him to have the freedom to choose his own path, to live a life that wasn't dictated by the weight of the Trump name. This difference in vision was at the heart of the growing tension between Melania and Donald, a tension that was now threatening to spill into public view. The first signs of this rift became evident in the months leading up to Barron's high school graduation. While Melania encouraged Barron to consider taking a gap year to explore his interests and passions, Donald had other plans. He began discussing internship opportunities within the Trump organization, even suggesting that Barron might one day take on a leadership role within the family business. At first, the disagreements were subtle, quiet conversations behind closed doors, polite but firm refusals from Melania when Donald brought up the subject of Barron's future. But as Barron's graduation day approached, the tension began to escalate. During a private dinner at Mar-a-Lago, Donald presented Barron with a formal offer: a summer internship within the Trump organization, working alongside his older siblings to learn the ropes of the family business. To Donald, it was a logical next step for his son, a chance to start building the foundation for his future. But Melania saw it differently. She believed Barron wasn't ready to be thrust into the high-pressure world of the Trump organization. She wanted him to have the space and freedom to figure out who he was, without the expectations that came with being a Trump. The dinner ended abruptly, with Melania leaving the table and Barron caught in the middle. For the first time, the family's private tensions were laid bare, and the whispers of a rift began to grow louder. As news of the disagreement leaked to the media, the public became captivated by the story. Headlines speculated about the future of Barron Trump, with commentators debating whether he would follow in his father's footsteps or forge his own path. Social media erupted with opinions, with some praising Melania for her protective instincts and others siding with Donald's vision of continuing the Trump legacy. Amid the growing media frenzy, one thing was clear: the Trumps were facing a pivotal moment that would not only shape Barron's future, but also test the strength of their family bonds. What happens when the shadow of a family empire threatens to eclipse the individuality of its youngest member? Barron Trump's life had always been a study in contrasts. On one hand, he lived a life of privilege and opulence that few could imagine. Private schools, sprawling estates, and international recognition were a part of his everyday reality. On the other hand, Barron had lived in relative anonymity compared to his older siblings, who had embraced the Trump name and brand in full force. This anonymity was no accident. From the moment Donald Trump entered the political arena, Melania Trump made it her mission to shield Barron from the chaos that inevitably followed their family. As First Lady, Melania took on numerous roles, but none was as important to her as being a mother. Her Be Best campaign, which focused on the well-being of children, was said to be inspired by her desire to create a better world for Barron and other young people like him. Yet, despite Melania's efforts, Barron's name was frequently pulled into the public sphere. Whether it was during a White House Christmas event where his tall stature became a topic of conversation, or the occasional photo snapped during family trips, Barron remained a source of curiosity for the media and the public alike. Unlike his older siblings, Donald Jr., Ivanka, Eric, and Tiffany, who actively participated in family business and politics, Barron was often seen as the quiet observer. Donald Trump, however, didn't see Barron's reserved nature as a limitation. Instead, he saw it as untapped potential. To Donald, Barron was the heir to the Trump empire, the one who could carry the family's legacy into the next generation. "He's a natural leader," Donald once remarked to a close friend. "He's got the height, the intelligence, the presence. He's destined for greatness." But Melania disagreed. She believed Barron needed time to grow and discover his own passions, free from the weight of expectations that came with the Trump name. "He's not just a Trump," she reportedly told Donald during one of their private discussions. "He's his own person." This difference in perspective became increasingly apparent as Barron approached high school graduation. Donald began floating the idea of Barron joining the Trump Organization, starting with a summer internship that would introduce him to the world of real estate and business. "It's time for him to learn the ropes," Donald told Melania. "This is what our family does." Melania, however, saw the internship as an unnecessary pressure on Barron, who she felt was still too young to take on such responsibilities. She wanted him to take a gap year, travel, and explore his interests without being tied to the family business. "He's only 18, Melania argued. "Let him live a little before we decide his future." Barron, caught between his parents, remained largely silent. Friends close to him described him as thoughtful and introspective, someone who preferred to stay out of the spotlight. He enjoyed playing soccer, spending time with his close-knit group of friends, and exploring technology, interests that had little to do with the Trump Organization. As the graduation ceremony drew closer, the tension between Donald and Melania became more palpable. Melania's protective instincts clashed with Donald's vision of legacy, and the private disagreements that had long been contained within the walls of Mar-a-Lago began to seep into public view. How far will a parent go to shape their child's future, and what happens when that vision collides with a different dream? As Barron's graduation day arrived, the tension within the Trump family reached its peak. The long-deferred conversation about his future was no longer avoidable. While the outside world celebrated the milestone of Barron completing high school, within the walls of Mar-a-Lago, a battle of ideologies raged between Melania and Donald. The day started with outward smiles for the cameras. The Trumps attended Barron's graduation ceremony, sitting in the front row as proud parents. Donald clapped enthusiastically as Barron walked across the stage to receive his diploma, while Melania's face radiated with quiet pride. The pictures from that day portrayed a unified family, but those close to the couple knew the truth was far more complicated. After the ceremony, during a private dinner with close family and friends, Donald seized the moment to make his intentions clear. Rising from his seat, he raised a glass and began to speak. "Today, we celebrate Barron's incredible achievement," he said, his voice carrying the confidence of a seasoned orator. "But this is only the beginning. Barron, you have a bright future ahead of you. And as your father, I want to help you take your first steps toward greatness. Starting this summer, you'll be joining the Trump Organization." The room erupted into applause, but Melania's smile faded. She had not been consulted about this announcement, and it was clear from her expression that she was not pleased. As Donald continued to outline his vision for Barron's future, Melania quietly excused herself from the table and left the room. The dinner, which was meant to be a celebration, ended in awkward silence. After the guests had left, Melania confronted Donald in their private quarters. "You had no right to make that decision for him," she said, her voice firm but controlled. "Barron is not ready for this, and you know it." Donald, unaccustomed to being challenged, dismissed her concerns. "Melania, this is what's best for him. He's a Trump. He belongs in the family business." "No," Melania replied, her voice steady. "He belongs wherever he chooses to be, not where you decide for him." It didn't take long for news of the disagreement to leak to the press. Within days, headlines speculating about Barron's future dominated the media. Trump family rift, Melania and Donald at odds over Barron's career path blared across cable news channels and online platforms. Social media, as always, became a battleground for opinions. Supporters of Donald framed his actions as those of a father trying to guide his son toward success. "He's preparing Barron for the real world," one commenter wrote. "This is what good parents do." On the other hand, Melania found herself praised by those who admired her protective instincts. "Melania is fighting for her son's individuality," a viral tweet read. "She's doing what any loving mother would do." Barron, meanwhile, remained silent throughout the ordeal. Friends close to the family described him as torn between his parents. He respected his father's vision and the opportunities it presented, but was also deeply influenced by his mother's desire to let him find his own way. As the public debate intensified, Melania found an unexpected ally in Ivanka Trump. Despite her own deep involvement in the Trump organization, Ivanka reportedly sympathized with Melania's concerns. In private conversations, she advised Donald to let Barron take his time. "Dad, you can't force him into this," she told him. "Barron has to want it, or it won't work." This intervention, coming from one of Donald's most trusted confidants, began to shift his perspective. For the first time, he started to consider the possibility that his youngest son might have a different path in mind. After weeks of tension, the family reached an agreement. Barron would take a gap year to explore his interests before making any decisions about his future. The compromise was a victory for Melania, who had fought tirelessly to give her son the space to discover himself. Donald, while initially reluctant, publicly supported the decision. "Barron is a bright young man," he told reporters. "Whatever he chooses to do, I know he'll make us proud." While the immediate conflict was resolved, the broader question of Barron's role in the Trump legacy remained unanswered. Would he eventually step into the family business, or would he chart a completely different course? For now, Barron was content to take things one step at a time. Melania, for her part, continued to advocate for her son's independence. In a rare interview, she said, "Every child deserves the chance to find their own path. Barron is no different. I will always support him in whatever he chooses to do." Donald, meanwhile, seemed to accept the uncertainty of Barron's future. "Life has a way of surprising us," he said. "I've learned to trust the process." The story of Barron Trump's future remains unwritten, but the journey to this point is a testament to the complexities of parenting, even within one of the most powerful families in the world. The debate over his future highlighted not only the different parenting styles of Donald and Melania, but also their shared love for their son. As the media frenzy died down and the family returned to some semblance of normalcy, one thing was clear. The Trumps were, at their core, a family like any other, navigating the challenges of raising a child in an increasingly complex world. In the end, the conflict wasn't about winning or losing. It was about ensuring Barron had the freedom to make his own choices. And for a family so often defined by legacy, that freedom was perhaps the greatest gift of all.